Welcome to Trident Astrology. I'm Janine Kane. Today I'm going to be going over the September weekly forecast for the week between the 1st and the 6th. What I'm going to be looking at each week are planetary retrogrades and directs, outer planetary ingressions. An ingression is simply when a planet changes or enters into a new sign. And with the exception of Jupiter, Saturn, Chiron, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto do not make an ingression every year, but Jupiter does because it changes a sign once a year. Saturn takes 2.5 years to change into a sign, Chiron 4 to 7 years, Uranus 7 years, Neptune 14 years, Pluto 20 years. Our next important ingression will be Jupiter and Saturn moving into Aquarius in December, which is preparing us for the year 2021, which is going to be a very Uranian and Aquarian year. And it's going to be consisting of Saturn-Uranus square, which is ushering us into a new era. And I'll be talking more about that in another video. I also look at inner planetary sign changes, the Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Mars. Generally, these inner planets shift into a new sign once a month to once a month and a half. Mars is what's happening to Mars this year is pretty special because Mars only goes retrograde every 2 years, and it's in its home sign of Aries until the end of the year due to retrogradation. And with Mars in Aries right now in its home sign, it's a powerful energetic. So anyone with a Mars and Aries influence in their chart is really, really feeling this. I also look at solstices and equinoxes, new and full moons, and eclipses. Just to let you know, our next eclipses that are coming up are on November 30th and on December 14th. I also look at major planetary aspects and synodic cycles. A synodic cycle is simply a cyclic or angular relationship between two planets where they will go into a conjunction, a square, an opposition, a square, and back into conjunction. I also look at numerology and tarot symbolism for the month, as that is quite relevant to the symbolism in astrology. Because I do go over quite a bit, I will be timestamping in the description of my video, so you can skip along to whatever section you're wanting to watch throughout the video. I also will be posting a PDF file of this entire forecast, so if it's your preference, you can go read the PDF. Okay, so the current planets in retrograde this month, starting off this month, there are 6 planets: Jupiter, Saturn, Chiron, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. We have 2 planets going direct this month, Jupiter and Saturn, in the mid of September, and I'll be going over that in later forecasts. Mars will be going retrograde on the 9th and going direct on the 11th. And at the end of the month, the remaining planets that will be in retrogradation or in retrograde will be 5 planets, and they will include Mars, Chiron, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Before I move forward, I just want to take a note of something very, very interesting about retrograde and direct planets. If you notice here, planets go retrograde in the summer and spring months. They go direct in the fall and winter months, and there is a reason for that. Retrogradation and directness of planets are a compensatory mechanism to balance yin and yang energies of the seasons. Because everything exists in a dualistic unity, it's basically trying to balance out the yin and yang energy. It's like astrology is abundant with this foundational dynamic. And I'm not going to go into what dualistic unity is in this video, but if you are interested, I will be creating a video on the principles of dualistic unity and the law of enantiodromia and the Taoism infused in astrology. So let's take a look at retrogrades and directs. So in the summer, in the summer, we have a yang energy. Yang is fiery, it's hot, it's light over darkness, it's energetic, it's active, it's characterized by dry. So during the summer, to compensate for this yang energy, planets go retrograde. Because when planets go retrograde, that's going inward. It's an introspective yin energy. The opposite happens during the winter. The winter is a yin energy. It's dark, it's cold, it's slow, it's inward energy. It's dark over light. It's marked by inactivity and hibernation. So during this time, the planets go direct. It's an outward looking energy. It's yang. And you see, it's again this dualistic unity. It's always trying to find balance between the two. And that's what retrogradation and directness is all about. Okay, let's move forward. The interplanetary energy shifts that occur this week will be Mercury entering into Libra on September 5th. We have Venus entering Leo on September 6th, and I'll be talking more about their interpretations in the interpretations section. This month is our autumnal equinox. Sun enters into Libra on September 22nd. This is a very, very, very spiritual day. It's a day to get grounded and to set our intentions. Equinoxes occur twice a year when the sun crosses the celestial equator, when the day and night are an equal length. And I'll talk more about that in future forecasts. We start our week off with a Uranian infused Pisces moon on September 1st. And it's jam-packed with energy. So I look forward to providing the interpretation of that because it really sets the energy for this week. Now I'm going to be going into the numerology and tarot symbolism for the month. This month is a universal 4-month. You can find that by adding the year with the month. So 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 0 plus 9 is 13 and reduces to 4. Now, 4 symbolizes structure, responsibility, discipline, the physical, the masculine. It's about order and stability and calmness. It's a Saturnian energy. 4 corresponds with the planet Saturn. And that makes sense as we move forward in our interpretation. The corresponding tarot cards are the Emperor and the Death card. Don't freak out. There is a astrotheological symbolic underlying meaning in this. And I think you'll find this very, very, very interesting. I know I do. Okay, so the Emperor card, 4. The Emperor card is about leadership. It's about power, responsibility, structure, solidity. Sounds very Saturnian. Symbol of our own power in our lives. It symbolizes mastery of the physical plane. The Emperor corresponds to the planet Saturn and to the planet Mars. The Death card is about endings and beginnings, new cycles, transformation. It symbolizes the mutable nature of reality. Every ending is a new beginning. The Death card is a suitable symbol here as we're moving from the summer season into the fall. Now this is where it gets interesting. In astrotheology, the fall is symbolic of the sun's entry into Libra, preparing for the Saturnian realms of the winter. Interestingly, Libra is exalted by Saturn. The death card corresponds to the planet Saturn and to the transformative energy of Pluto. Now we're going to go into our full-on day-to-day interpretations, okay? So the overview of the week with planetary aspects. We start with September 1st. The powerful energy of this week is catapulted with the Uranian Infused full moon in Pisces, the Mercury-Trine Pluto energy, and the T-square between Saturn, Venus, and Mars, with Mars being at the focal point. And this is all starting on September 1st. So we're starting the month off with this powerful full moon and very intense aspects accompanying it. So let's take a look. Let's go to the chart here. This is the Mercury-Pluto Trine chart, and I'm going to put it into single planetary aspects. Okay, so at 3:42 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Mercury in Virgo is going to be trining Pluto in Capricorn. So here's Mercury at 22 degrees of Virgo, in exact trine to Pluto in Capricorn. We can also see here that Pluto is in a fairly strong opposition to the planet of Venus, and in a fairly strong square to the planet of Mars in Aries. Pluto trine, the planet of communication and perceptions, brings profundity, passion, and intensity to communication. What we say to others has a strong transformative effect during this aspect, which is in orb through September 4th. With Pluto in opposition with the planet of relationships, Venus, and in weak square to Mars, be mindful of your communication with those closest to you, especially if you experience the urge to assert your will or needs over theirs. Do your best to use Mercury trine Pluto energy to empower your relationship communication. That is likely to be very, very challenging at this time, as Pluto, which is divine will, is kind of overpowering the personal will. With Pluto symbolizing the divine will, you might find yourself saying things you wished you would have kept to yourself, finding little control over passionate communication as your emotions become involved in a situation. With Saturn trine with Mercury exact on the 3rd, and Saturn in opposition to Venus exact on the 2nd, forming a T-square with Mars as a focal planet, if we tap into that growth-oriented energy in a productive way, we may have some assistance in restraint, which these planets' energies will be activated during the full moon. And we'll see what I'm talking about with the T-square when we go to the full moon. Let's do that. So here's the full moon. You can see there's a lot of busy energy happening here. And you can see that there is a T-square happening here. And the planets that are involved in this T-square are Saturn, Venus, and Mars. And Pluto is in a weak T-square with the focal point of Mars as well, but we're going to be focusing on the planets that are going to be exact this week. So at 10:22 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, there is a full moon in Pisces at 10 degrees and 12 minutes. There are two important configurations that are happening during this full moon. There is Uranus in a strong sextile, or in a strong sextile to the moon, and a strong trine to the sun. And so this is what's infusing this kind of Uranian energy into the luminaries that are in opposition here. So that's bringing it with a lot of abrupt energy. It's bringing it with a lot of mutable energy and a rebellious energy to this full moon. So let's go into it and read a little bit about it. A strongly Uranian infused full moon in Pisces opens up the thresholds to our unconscious. The energies are very mutable and turbulent and full of change. If you use this full moon energy appropriately, entering the deeper parts of our mind via meditation, you can delve deep inside and emerge back more integrated. You see, Uranus is about integration. It's what I consider a threshold planet. It symbolizes the divine mind, and it's entering into the unconscious realms of our mind, and it induces integration. Be careful of escapism or excessive substance use at this time, as this can create turbulence and imbalance in the psyche. Our emotions may be vulnerable to abrupt mood changes. There may be a tendency for increased impulsivity and escapism at this time, so it is vital that we ground ourselves a couple days before and after this full moon. If we find ourselves in a passionate encounter with our loved ones, especially with the Pluto Trine Mercury energy, try to remember to take space from each other. That's going to be needed during this full moon energy. Full moons are important times for culmination of projects and creative projects. They represent endings and letting go. It is a great time of completion. With the full moon in the axes of Pisces and Virgo, here's Pisces, and this is Virgo, and it's in an axis of opposition. With the full moon in the axes of Pisces and Virgo, the energetic focus is on self-development, emotional maturation, spiritual exploration, growth during a crisis, the practice of good health habits, and focusing on work, creative projects, and helping others. It is a wonderful time to try something new, Uranus. Now, we want to get out of our comfort zone at this time. Whilst we are self-developing, we have to allow ourselves to make mistakes. We have to allow our mistakes to be fun part of growth. I know that's what I'm doing right now, as this is my first launch of a broadcast, a screencast, and I can tell you that I am definitely pushing myself out of my comfort zone. And I'm going to make mistakes, and that's okay. That's okay, because in order to do something, you have to be in practice, and you have to make mistakes. So allow yourself to make mistakes. And allow the mistakes to be a part of your growth. Don't get wrapped up in perfectionism and unproductive self-criticism. And that is easy to happen when you're trying something new. And see Virgo here. Virgo here. The sun is in Virgo. That is where we get the perfectionism and self-criticism. Okay, so now we're going to go and look into the T-square between Saturn, Venus, and Mars, with Mars being the focal point, okay? So let's go here. Oh, let me fix that. Okay, so what we're seeing here is Mars is in a square to Saturn, and it's in a square to Venus, whilst Venus and Saturn are in opposition. Okay? When there is a T-square energy in a chart, it means there is a wonderful tension for growth. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I've had some wonderful things happen during during a T-square energy, or a square energy for that matter. Okay, so when there's a T-square energy in a chart, it means there is a wonderful tension for growth. We see Saturn, the planet of responsibility and discipline, in the opposition to the planet of values and relationships, Venus, both in square to Mars. And I apologize, there's not a line here, but there should be one. So Saturn is in opposition with Venus, and they're both squaring Mars, making it the focal planet. When we have an opposition, so looking at Saturn and Venus in opposition, it means we need to balance those opposing and conflicting energies. We may find that we need to balance our values and our relationships, which is Venus, with our responsibilities, as these things may be in conflict. So our work and responsibilities are going to be in conflict with our values and our relationships somehow. And we have to figure out how to integrate those conflicts. I mean, that's basically, again, going back to dualistic unity. Things that are in opposition are trying to integrate and trying to find some kind of interactive commonality to integration. Okay. With Mars in Aries as the focal point, we can use this energizing and powerful energy to get things done, to make time for our relationship. So I think that's one of the ways that we can kind of use this T-square right now to kind of balance things out. There may be tensions between what we want, Mars, and our current responsibilities, Saturn, and values, Venus. And with Pluto square Mars, there may be tensions between what we want and what is actually happening. So let's take a look at that. Oh, I gotta do that again. So here we are, we have Pluto squaring Mars. It's not quite a strong square, but because Pluto is such a powerful outer planet, I think with a 5-degree orb, the energy is still in effect. And so we see here, Pluto, the planet of divine will, is forcing itself on our personal will. So we might feel like things aren't really going exactly the way we want them. So we kind of have to surrender. Okay, where are we here? And so with Pluto square Mars, there may be tensions between what we want and what is actually happening. It's time for us to surrender and to accept the things we cannot change and change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So hopefully that Uranian energy in there will help us to kind of have some divine insight in how to handle these tensions between what is happening out of our control and what we have control over. All right. It's important that we keep our priorities straight during this time, especially with the Saturn-Venus energy, and put our energy, Mars, into things that have the most positive and productive outcomes. Otherwise, we can find ourselves in unwanted situations and experiencing negative consequences. The aspects between Venus and Saturn opposition and Venus-Mars square will go exact during the week and intensify in its energy. So the energies of this full moon that we talked about are going to be going exact. So they're following us through the week. Okay, so we're about to wrap up here. We're just going to go through the rest of the week. September 2nd, we can see that Venus opposing Saturn energy goes exact at 5:18 a.m. So, like I said, that energy is just going to be following us through the rest of the week. September 3rd, Mercury in Virgo trine Saturn. Mercury trine Saturn brings a serious and somber energy to our thinking, perceptions, and communication style. There's a real intense energy of mental focus that might be beneficial for writing and communication. This aspect balances out the Pluto-Mercury trine that occurred at the beginning of the week. We'll see that maybe our communication will be less intense, perhaps, and more restrained and controlled. So let's look at that chart and what that looks like here. We can see here that Mercury is in an exact trine at 25 degrees and 53 minutes. On September 4th, there's a lot of a relational healing energy happening this day. Venus squares Mars exact at 2:12 a.m. So let's take a look at that energy there. Mars is an exact square with Venus. Venus symbolizing the feminine energy and Mars symbolizing the male energy. So this square energy is putting emphasis on growth tension in relationships. Venus square Mars bring tension into relationships, prompting relational growth and compromise, and may be wise to postpone making long-term decisions about your relationships and financial decisions during this remainder of this aspect, which will last until September 8th, with a 5-degree orb. At 5:51 a.m., the moon conjuncts Chiron, so we can see that. At 8 degrees and 15 minutes of Aries, here we see the moon and Chiron conjuncting. You may find that an eruption of healing emotions might come up this day. I think this is really beneficial for the Mars-Venus square. So whilst we have some relationship tensions, this brings in some healing energy into the field. There may be a strong urge to help some other person too. So it's about inward healing, emotional healing, and the urge to help another person heal. So I feel that this is a very, very good accompanying energy with the Venus-Mars square happening this day. Also, Mercury is going to sextile Venus. Mercury sextile Venus benefits our communication and relationships as we become more heart-focused rather than so rational and somber as we were when during the energy of the third, when Mercury and Saturn were when Saturn was impacting the Mercury communication end of things. So here, let's take a look at this. We see that Mercury. Where is it? Where is it? Here we are. Mercury is in a very strong, or is an exact sextile to Venus. So it's very, very helpful at this time. So we have a lot of like beneficial healing energy at this time with the Venus square Mars and the moon conjunct Chiron and with Mercury sextiling Venus. It's September 5th. We have some very, very, very interesting energy here. We have the gas giants of Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter squaring the moon in Aries. So our emotions may be intensified by this configuration. We may find ourselves emotionally caught up in issues around culture and organizations and the transformations of our cultural and organizational milieus right now. So a lot of tension happening. I think especially too with the upcoming elections. At 9:45 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the moon conjuncts Mars. This also brings in some really emotional, intense energy. The moon-Mars conjunction going exact in Aries we should be very mindful of possible emotional outbursts, especially relating to the social cultural milieus. Having heated political arguments and confrontations with others probably are going to happen during the mid of this week as we see the Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter squaring Mars, and then the Mars conjuncting the moon. There's going to be some heated debates going on. However, at 12:46 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Mercury enters Libra, and this is going to be a very helpful energy shift. As Mercury entering in Libra will be helpful in negotiations, and as our thinking will shift into a more cooperative, balanced, and peacemaking energy. So hopefully that will help. And then finally, September 6th, Venus enters into Leo. So while this whole week, we've had this really kind of push and pull, conflicting energies impacting our week, finally, we end the week with Venus entering into Leo. It's very helpful in shifting this week's intense energy and making it more playful, more benevolent. So at least we're going to be ending the more intense energies of the week and moving into a more playful, creative, and benevolent energy. Future highlights for upcoming September weekly forecasts. We have Jupiter-Sun Trine and Mars retrograde happening on September 9th. We have the Sun-Neptune opposition, September 11th. On September 12th, we have Jupiter going direct. September 7th, we have our new moon in Virgo. September 22nd, we have the autumnal equinox. Sun enters Libra. Yay! September 28th, Venus-Mars trine. And finally, September 29th, we have the Mars-Saturn conjunction, and Saturn will be going direct. So a lot of shifting energy this month. So I look forward to you guys joining me for next week's forecast. Thank you so much for joining me. Blessings and love.